Wrestling fans, Saturday night, May the 8th, MWF Studios gets extreme as ECW legend New Jack joins us for the very first time, taping episodes of Wrestling Insiders along with taking part in a live cyber autograph signing open to fans around the world. For more information on joining the three-time ECW Tag Team Champion for Must-See TV, visit BostonWrestling.com and our social media platforms.
Wrestling fans around the corner, around the world, I'm Dan Marty.
MJ in the house.
Future WWE Hall of Famer, mind you. Let me tell you this.
I'm not in there yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
But you will be.
Yeah, I will.
You know Sean wants to be the first three-timer.
Three-timer, yeah.
There you go. Let me tell you, you enjoy the in-studio shoot interviews 4 times a week. It isn't cheap to put these productions together, folks. We need your help.
No, because they got to pay me.
Coronavirus has killed the nightlife in a lot of ways. We are night owls, Marty and I, but that's a different story for a different time. One way you can help is to check out the great merchandise we have in the Boston Wrestling eBay store. It is perfect for any wrestling man cave or any collection.
That's right. Check it out.
Arguably the greatest professional wrestler of all time. Get this limited edition collector's autograph print personally signed by two-time WWE Hall of Famer Nature Boy Ric Flair, inscribed 16 times for each of his recognized World Championship reigns. One of only 50 made direct from our friends at WWE. Also signed by original artist Rob Schamberger. Help keep wrestling legends working. Get this awesome Ric Flair collectible for your wrestling collection now.
Cheer. Why, hello. I would ask what was on your mind, but I already know. You want to know what has got my beard looking oh so majestic. And I'll tell you, it's sexy as hell beard care. Coconut oil, vitamin E oil, almond oil, both sweet and bitter, shea butter, it's all natural. Yes, JTG has actually come out with a high quality product, so support your boy by going to sahbeardcare.com and take one step closer to becoming sexy as hell. Cheer. Ooh, cheer. You know?
Boston Wrestling Sports and the MWF explodes into a new year of unknown with professional wrestling content galore, and we need you to join our family. Every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. after we review the previous night's Monday Night Raw, it's Wrestling Insiders at your house with the unpredictable WWE Hall of Famer, Mr. USA, Tony Atlas. Wednesday nights after WWE, NXT, and AEW at 10 p.m., you never know who's going to show up on Wrestling Insiders Special Edition. Every Thursday night at 10 p.m. after our NXT and Dynamite review, it's Marty Jannetty's No Holds Barred Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll journey through the 80s and 90s on Wrestling Insiders Party with Marty. Friday nights after the lights go down at the Thunderdome on SmackDown, it's John Cena Sr.'s Wrestling Insiders Fabulous Fridays. Plus, look for classic clips, bonus live episodes, pay-per-view watch-alongs, and more. If you want early, ad-free access to all of our Wrestling Insider talk shows, our acclaimed studio shoot interview DVD library, and to help keep wrestling legends working during the worst of times, for less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks, join our growing family at patreon.com/Boston Wrestling. Expect the unexpected in 2021.
This is Mick Foley.
This is Harley Race.
This is Shelton Benjamin.
This is Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff.
This is the Monster Abyss.
And this is Daniel Bryan.
This is JBL, and you're watching the MWF.
Be there live.
Wrestling fans from around the corner, around the world, welcome to another installment of Memories and Legends. Tony, we have you back for the second time this weekend.
Right.
We'll be in New Orleans as it happens, but as the fans tune into this, it is WrestleMania 34 morning. It's like Christmas for professional wrestling today.
Yes, it is.
And we'll be enjoying WrestleCon.
Yes.
The convention itself.
Yes.
We'll be with John Cena Sr., Larry the X Henning, Hardcore Holly, Bob Orton. I know you're going to be there at a vendor table signing autographs. Last year, I think there were 6,000 fans at WrestleFun. This year, when they added Steve Austin and Goldberg, I think there'll be even more. That'll be good.
Yeah,
We like that.
Yeah, it's going to be a very good turnout. It's going to be a great WrestleMania weekend.
And, well, it's going to be a lot of fun. We did it last year in Orlando, and hopefully many more years to come on that. Here in Memories and Legends, I wanted to break down a time period that I find to be most interesting with you. 1984 through WrestleMania II, I want to break it down. 1984 was a huge year for WWF. Hulkamania had kicked off, defeating the Iron Sheik in Madison Square Garden in January of '84. At that point, you were one half of the WWF Tag Team Championship. Vince McMahon Jr., as we'll call him here for a time, he took over from Vince McMahon Sr. He began a national expansion, cherry-picking top talent from all over the country. Take us back to that time, Tony, through your eyes, through the locker rooms, through the arenas, through the big matches.
I got shit canned.
In 1984?
Yep, me and Rocky Johnson, they put us on the blacklist.
Now, why is that?
Well, it's hard to say, but it was, see, we was created by Vince Sr.
Right.
And everything that Vince Sr. created, Vince Jr. tried to destroy.
Everything.
Like me and Rocky, we were tag team champions for a year. We teamed up twice in a year.
Very limited, yeah.
Yeah, I was the only wrestler that was paid not to show up for WrestleMania I.
Well, we're going to get there. Right now, we're talking 1984. You're the tag team champions to kick off the year.
It didn't mean nothing. It's just like with Ron Summers. They put the belt on Ron Summers, and then but it kept Sting on top.
Right. Yeah.
Ron Summers was world champion. He was secondary to Sting. It was just the time. That's why I don't like talking about that time too much, because I don't want to say racism, because everybody use that term, but with somebody make a decision on whether you're going to be up, down, win, or lose, and you have absolutely no say-so on where you go in any business or profession. Wrestling is something that I try not to talk about. I try to forget. You know, I try not to drill on all that stuff from the 80s and the 90s. I remember the 70s, but I try to forget the 80s and I try to forget the 90s.
Now, why is that? We got to break it down.
There's nothing
Tony.
good about it.
There's nothing good about it. It was a negative time.
For minorities.
Well, I'll ask you this point blank.
Yeah.
Do you think you faced racism in WWF?
I wouldn't call it racism. I would call it the majority of the fans were Caucasian, and they much rather cheer for somebody that was more like them than not like them. Now, Vince Sr. had a different perspective. Mm-hmm. He wanted somebody to represent each race. With Junior, it changed. Like, I can't watch the New Day.
Why don't you like the New Day?
I can't watch that.
Now, why is that?
I can't watch that.
Well, there's a reason. Why, Tony?
Sickening.
Sickening.
It's sickening.
Why is it sickening?
It's like when you go to the circus and the clowns come out in the car.
They
clowns.
Well, they are a comedic group.
They clown. They clown. The last serious African American black wrestler they had was JYD. That was it.
Really? Not Mark Henry, who you managed.
He let a midget beat him.
Well, they also gave him.
But he can't beat Hogswaller.
They gave him the world championship.
Yeah, and then they closed the company after they gave it to him.
Well, no, that was ECW. I'm talking about he held the SmackDown version of the title.
Yeah, then they took it right back away. Yeah.
All right, Tony.
Well, I mean, you take a 450-pound guy, could push a Greyhound bus, put 500 pounds over his head, but he can't beat a midget. Wonderful.
Well,
You ever see him have Big Show to lay down for a midget? You ever see him make Triple H lay down for a midget? Mark Henry's the only big guy I know that couldn't beat Hogswaller.
So you're trying to say that was a racist thing?
I'm not saying that it's racist, it's just that.
How about this? Maybe there are times when high-quality black professional wrestlers could have been booked better. Is that a fair statement to make? No.
Wait. Whenever you got any business, that pick and choose who they want to be the top guy. And it's not just black wrestlers. There's a lot of good wrestlers and a lot of, especially females, especially female wrestlers. Just to be a good female wrestler is not good enough. You have to be drop dead gorgeous.
In most cases,
if you're not drop dead gorgeous, you would never be a female. They don't have female wrestling, but they had divas. See, Moolah, Mae Young, and all them, they was wrestlers. You don't have female wrestlers anymore. You got divas, you know, and they have to dress,
provocatively.
Exactly.
There you go.
Otherwise, they can't make. They have to get silicone in their chest if they don't have natural breasts. If you know, it's more of an entertainment thing. And it's a hard sport to be in when you make no decision on what you do or say.
Yeah. Fair statement.
In my day, if I had to do an interview, they said, Tony, you're going to wrestle Ric Flair. You got 1 minute. That's all the promoter told me. Now they give you a strip to read. Every word that come out of Miz's mouth is written by someone else.
And I think that's a horrible way to execute the promos.
Every move that they do in the ring was written for them. Everything is planned. From the first match to the last match to every word that is said is planned.
Overproduced.
Well, that's how they control everything the wrestlers say and do. In my day, the wrestler had more control.
Absolutely.
But since the 80s, I don't talk too much about it because no wrestler could take credit for anything they did from 1985 up. They're just following a strip.
Well, we're in 1984 right now.
1984, the wrestlers still have a say-so on what they do. That's why Hogan never beat me. I didn't want him to.
MSG, you had that big encounter. I remember that.
I told him if he's going to beat me, he got to do it on his own. Today, they tell you, let Hogan beat you, you lay down or you go home.
Yeah.
That's why what he did, he put all the other organizations out of business so that the wrestler had no place to run. You either do what Vince said or you go home. You eliminate all your competition. That way the wrestler, wrestlers have more power over what they did and say because if Vince McMahon didn't treat you right, you go to work for Vern Gagne. Vern Gagne don't treat you right, you go work for Jim Crockett. Crockett don't treat you right, you go work for Bill Watts. Or you go work for the Von Erich. You had other places to go, but when Vince bought out all these territory, you had no place to go. It's kind of like Walmart come in, he take over all the businesses, and so you either work for Walmart or you don't go to work.
Right.
Because there's no more companies to go to. Walmart is the dominant employee of everywhere you go.
All right, well, you kicked off the year, you had the tag team titles. It wasn't the most pleasant experience with you and Rocky. Rocky would strand you at hotels when you had scheduled matches. Take us to April the 17th, 1984, the night they decided to take the belts off you and they put it on Dick Murdoch and Adrian Adonis.
And I knew nothing about it.
Well, explain. What do you mean you knew nothing about it? They just told you that night?
No, I didn't know we were going to lose.
You went into the match. No, what did you think the finish was?
We didn't have one. They said they'd tell me in the ring.
Why didn't they want to tell you?
Because they knew I wasn't going to do it.
Really?
They knew I wasn't going to do that. I would have press slammed both of them and threw them in the third row.
What? You didn't want to drop the belts?
No. But
Well,
but Vince knew me.
Well, Rocky Johnson obviously knew.
But they told Rocky, but they didn't tell me. They used to tell Rocky a lot of stuff they wouldn't tell me. They did the same with SD. They would tell SD something, they wouldn't tell me nothing.
Why would they tell you, Tony? Was it, Rocky Johnson said in a recent interview, in that time period, you were difficult to do business with.
Because I was a man.
You were a man, okay.
Vince was not used to men. See, if I didn't like something, I would say something. Ronnie Piper put that in his book. The boys, when the business first started growing real big, they started selling out everywhere under Hulkamania. But when I got my check, it was the same as it was before Hogan. So, all the wrestlers was talking about it in the dressing room.
So there was more revenue coming in, and you were still getting the same pay?
No,
Is that
not
what you
just
mean?
me, everybody.
Well, no, the revenue was coming in.
All the wrestlers was talking about it, so Vince heard the talk, so he had a meeting. So Vince said, anybody got anything they want to say? So I looked around, nobody said nothing. So I stood up. And Ronnie Piper put in his book, said Tony Atlas lost his job for speaking up to the wrestlers, and everybody check got improved, and Tony Atlas got fired.
So what did you say at the meeting?
I said, how come when the houses was down, I got this amount, now the houses is up, I still getting the same amount. How can we draw more money, have more people, but my paycheck don't go up?
Well, you said you were earning a healthy income. In one of the previous episodes, you said you were at about 350 grand. For
Yeah,
that
but
year.
the houses were bigger than that.
So you,
That was the same money I was making when it was small.
so you're saying the percentage to the boys went down.
Went down.
We talked about-
we started making less instead of more.
In a previous episode, we talked about right now, WWE, even with the huge amount of money they're grossing every year, only about 10% of that goes
Go
to the wrestlers, which is very different than any other form of entertainment
Yeah,
or
yeah,
sports. You look at
yeah,
sports teams,
yeah.
you know, you're talking about usually half the
Yeah.
pie go to
and
the
I
athletes.
spoke up about it. And when
Yeah.
I spoke up, I got blackballed.
Well, that's very interesting. In May of 1984, Vince Sr.
The same thing with the Ultimate Warrior. Why they kicked them to the curb? Same thing. Cause he going to wrestle Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
And there was more people there to see the Warrior than Hogan. People have seen Hogan. This Warrior came along, and he was a new phenomenon. So the Warrior went to Vince and said, look, I'm not going out tonight unless I get the same money
As Hogan.
as Hogan get. He said, I'm in the same match. We both responsible for the house. I should get what Hogan get.
Well, they're
And
on
they
top
got rid of him.
Well,
See, the same thing happened. Well, it wasn't just me. There was a lot of guys. In wrestling, these are your rules. Keep your mouth shut, do as you're told, and don't be late.
well, I got to ask.
I broke every rule.
I
I ran my mouth.
why?
I didn't do what I was told, and I was late a couple of times.
A couple of times.
Yes.
Let me ask you this, Tony. If all the guys were frustrated about this, if everybody knew, at least in theory, you were getting stiffed based upon what the gross was for
You
the
take
tickets,
a guy-
why didn't everybody stand up in that meeting?
Because
They can't fire everybody.
Once one do it, one would sacrifice for many.
So you were the
I
sacrificial
was
lamb?
the sacrificial lamb. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Tony.
Once that one person say nothing, nobody else had to say nothing. Because you speaking for everyone. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And so what the other guys do, they would sit back and let you be the one. Like, for people in all this, think about this. A person come to you and say, if I were you, I would do this.
Right.
If I were you. They do that all the time. If I were you, I wouldn't put up with that. If I were you, I wouldn't let him do that. If I were you, I would say something. If I were you.
Now, was this
And that's how they would trick a young wrestler into going doing something or saying something he normally would say. But they'd use that term, if I were you. I'd say, well, I'm not you, so I'm not going to do that. But if I were you, I'd do that. You see? Right. And so we don't pay no attention with the wrestling world. As soon as one guy speak up, there was guys always trying to get the union going, like Jesse Ventura. Once he tried to get a union going, that was it for him. Every time the wrestler...
Well, no, Jesse was still around after that.
Pretty much
for 4
it
years.
Jesse. Yeah, but what kept Jesse around, what kept him around when he became governor, he got involved in other stuff.
Right.
Jesse has something else other than wrestling.
Absolutely.
So
Movie
once you
career,
get something else other than wrestling going for yourself, they would treat you better. That's what kept Hogan around so long, because Hogan, like I said, is a self-made man. Most all the commercials and movies Hogan did, Vince didn't do that for Hogan. Hogan did that for Hogan. Mm-hmm. So Hogan always had something else going for Hogan. Once you become totally dependent on Vince, he do you the way he want to do you. And if you don't go along with it, he just get rid of you.
Well, Sergeant Slaughter pushed for the boys to get a union right around that time, and look at what happened to him.
Then he
was exiled from
WWE,
WWF at that point, too.
Well, everybody that stand up for the wrestlers will eventually get slaughtered. And now on Vice TV, they just did a documentary on Bruiser Brody. When Bruiser Brody got stabbed to death in the locker room, the people that take him to the hospital, turn and say, do anybody want to help us put him in the ambulance? Just put in the ambulance. Every wrestler in that dressing room turned their back.
I remember.
When they say that anybody want to go to the hospital with him, everybody turned their back. When the police asked what happened, everybody say, I don't know.
I look forward to seeing the documentary.
Wrestling is a dog-eat-dog world, and you have to get your bite out of it. If you finish the wrestling career with one friend, consider yourself lucky. Wrestlers are not friends to each other. They don't socialize with each other. And when you leave wrestling, guys that you talk to for a year won't answer the phone.
Really?
Oh, kidding me?
It can be cruel. You're not wrong.
Because
it can be
every
cruel.
wrestler is independently employed. So when Tony Atlas there, Tony Atlas working strictly for Tony Atlas. He do what he want to keep Tony Atlas there. When Rocky Johnson there, Rocky Johnson working for Rocky Johnson. Hogan there, Hogan is for Rocky Johnson. Wrestling, all old time promoters always tell me, look after yourself, kid. Look after yourself, kid. That's what makes these guys the way they are. Because if you get close to somebody, that person could hurt you down the road. You say something, the most safest spot for a wrestler is in the ring. He's safe in the ring because he can protect himself in the ring. The dangerous spot for a wrestler is in the car, traveling with another wrestler, or in the dressing room with another wrestler, because you get a talking. And you say something. As soon as you say, Adrian O'Donnell, you should bring cocaine in the dressing room, give it to all the wrestlers, then go call Vince and tell Vince all the wrestlers doing cocaine. He's the one that gave it to him.
Adrian Adonis was an interesting character. He passed away the same month as
Captain
when
Rat
Bruiser
Banner
Brody
do the
was
same
murdered.
thing. We give all the guys a shot of liquor, then go tell Vince the boys in the dressing room drinking.
Oh, he was legendary for his drinking. He was legendary for
Guys
his
would
drinking.
do anything to trip you up. They would do anything to trip you up.
All right, well, let me ask you this, Tony.
And that's why you see guys that keep their distance. Teddy Long, you ever met Teddy Long?
Oh, Teddy worked for a couple of shows for us.
Teddy Long, all the wrestlers would go check in this hotel. Teddy would find a hotel away from the guys. That's how come he stayed there so long. He won't stay with them. He won't stay to say, Mark Henry, the reason he stayed there so long, you always ask, Mark Henry would not stay in the same hotel that the wrestlers with. He traveled by himself. He don't hang around nobody.
Well,
so nobody could say nothing about him.
Right.
Nobody could cut his throat.
They don't give him any
Yeah,
material to work with.
All the guys that stay away from another wrestler, they stay there a long time. All the guys that get into these groups and stuff, because the Vince come up and say, hey, what you guys was up to last night? Now, you got two choices. You could lie to Vince, or you could tell him the truth. If you lie to him, and the other guy tell the truth, you fired. So if you want to keep your job, you tell him the truth. You're not going to lie to Vince just to protect this guy unless you're crazy.
Let me ask you this, Tony. You vanished from the WWF map from May through October of 1984. Was that the time you were having some issues out in Los Angeles? What happened?
I got blackballed.
Because of that meeting?
Yeah.
And where did you go for those 8 months or so?
It was hard to go anywhere because what Vince would do, he would call people and say, if you use Tony Atlas, I would put you out of business. That's how Mario Savoni went out of business. Mario used me. And he started, every time Mario would book a show, Vince would book a show the same night, in the same time.
Oh, they were very common for that in the 80s,
That's right, that's right. And they told me, if you use Tony Atlas, see, Vince liked closure. So when Vince wants to get through with you, he wants you to be in a position where nobody could ever use you again. When he's done with you, he wants you to be completely done.
Done. El finito.
Finished.
Yep.
Done.
Well, so what did you do for those months for income?
I became a certified personal trainer and started working with kids.
In 1984?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
I've worked a lot of, SD used to take me to a place where they have a lot of little black kids that were getting in trouble. So I did a lot of training way back, even in the 80s. I went to gyms to train people.
Yeah.
Then I got more involved in powerlifting and bodybuilding. That's how I won all them titles in 80. 85 when I won the AAU Mr. Universe. And then I did some bodyguard work with Charlie Angel.
Did you?
Yeah. I bodyguarded Tony Awards. I was Liza Minnelli, Cheetah Rivera bodyguard for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, I did bodyguard work. What I could do for work at that. But I used to do a lot of these school speeches and stuff. They used to pay us good. I worked a lot with Dan Lewin, the bodybuilder. He had a place out in Rhode Island. Yep.
So what led...
And then finally some promoters said, we use him. But every promoter that used me, Vince got rid of them.
Wow. Well, what led to you come back in October of '84?
Well, Vince said, let's bury the hatchet.
Okay.
See, he would let me go somewhere, but as soon as he see me started doing good there, he pulled me back in. Like the way he told Vern, how he got me away from Vern Gagne. He said, we got a trip to Africa. And everybody wants you there, Tony. And I said, well, I'm working for Vern now. I said, you got to talk to Vern about it. So he said, well, you talk to Vern. He said, because you be back. So I went to Vern. I told Vern about the trip and everything. And Vern said, you can go here. Vern said, you coming back now, ain't you? I said, yeah. I said, I'm just going for this. It's only going to be a week, and I'll be right back. Vern said, okay. So when I get my ticket, it's a one-way ticket to Toronto, Canada. So I figured the return ticket is, they give me all my information at TV in Toronto.
Right.
So when I got there, Vince said, well, I figured that once you accept this Africa trip, you also accept to come back to work with us.
Really?
So I said, well, that ain't what I talked to Vern. He said, don't worry about Vern. He said, I already had talked to Vern. He said, it's okay with Vern. Vern's like, it'd be good if you stay here for a while and then you go back there. So I didn't see Vern no more until 2006 in the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
And Vern said, nobody ever talked to him about nothing.
Really?
So he got me to walk out on Vern Gagne. And Vern Gagne just put the belt on me and Jumping Jim Bronzell. We just beat the War Warrior for the belt.
So you were a tag team champion when that happened?
With Jumping Jim Bronzell.
Oh, wow.
I took Greg Gagne's place.
Cutthroat. Cutthroat. Well, when you went back to WWF, you were, I would
A jobber.
say, more of an undercard guy, yeah.
Jobber, yeah.
How did that affect the finances?
I had no place to go. See, sometimes when you put yourself in a predicament, just like if you got a convertible car and you drive it and the weatherman say it's going to rain that day, and you decide to take the convertible, well, you're out driving, but then the rain start coming, you go to let the top up, the top won't come up. So you got to drive home in the rain. And that's what I did.
Well, Tony.
I went out in the convertible, it started raining, and I had to drive back in the rain. I got wet the whole time.
Well, that's a good way to put it. Did you resent when you came back after the success you had, the physique you had, the charisma you had, the success you had all over the country? Did you resent some guys maybe that didn't have as much talent as you, working higher up the card?
No, never. Because if a person is high on the card, he deserved that honor. He did that. I didn't do that. And because my absence didn't have nothing to do with him being there. He would have been there anyway.
Right.
The fact was, I was more angry at myself for a long time.
You know what?
For putting myself in a position where they could do that to me. Because one of the things that I learned from Hogan always kept himself in a position where people couldn't mess over him. The old timer always said, look after yourself, kid. If you save your money, it's very hard for a promoter to mistreat you. If you squander your money, it's easy for a promoter to take advantage of you.
Own you.
If you keep good contacts outside of the business, it's hard for a promoter to do things because you can go do other things. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Hogan, when they didn't treat Hogan right, Hogan was able to go to WCW. He was able to do reality shows. He was able to go do movies. He was able to go do commercials. So he was not totally relying on wrestling. And a lot of wrestlers put themselves in a position. Dwayne Johnson, do you think if he had stayed in wrestling, he'd be where he's at now? No, he would not.
He was making a very, very healthy income in WWE. I know he had a couple of 8-figure years, which was great.
He would have not been what he is now if he had stayed.
Well, I have a lot of strong thoughts on that, but we're trying to talk about a different era. I think he kind of stuck it to WWE.
No, wrestling didn't change.
No, it didn't change.
No, it's the same that every wrestler that have something else since the 70s, that has something else going for themselves other than. Bruiser Brody could call his own shot because Bruiser Brody had Japan.
Right. Big money in
the
Japan.
Butcher could call his own shot because he had Japan. Every wrestler has something else other than the WWE. The promoter was not able to mess with them because they could always go somewhere else.
Right.
And Hogan learned from them wrestlers. I'm always was very trusting.
You're a good guy.
I was a stupid guy. I'm still stupid. I trust what people say.
Yep.
I trust what people say.
And it's
Then
burned
at
you.
the end of the day, I found out that I was stupid. See, people would tell you anything if you're gullible.
Yep.
And I was gullible. I believed Vince when he said everything gonna be good. I believed Vince when he said you make more money with me than you will with Vern. I believed him. Hogan didn't.
Did you make more money in the AWA than you did with WWF
Yes.
when you came back? Really?
No, I made more money with Vern than I did with Vince.
The money was good with AWA?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you work less too.
So you,
work?
yeah, AWA didn't have an every night schedule,
You did
right?
less work too.
They were only, what, maybe 14 shots a month?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was
But
a great
Vince,
schedule
he
from what
paid
I've been
big.
told. Did he?
It was all big buildings. He paid real big. He did Vegas. He did Milwaukee. He did Chicago. He had some, Minneapolis and St. Paul were big buildings.
He wouldn't do the high school and social club type shows like
no
WWF.
small show. Everything was serious. Yeah, it was big. Yeah.
All right, as 1984 came to a close,
That's why Vince took such good care of Hogan when he first came in, because Hogan always go back to Vern.
or Japan, he had a
Or
great
Japan,
run in
had a
New
great
Japan.
deal with
Yeah,
Japan.
yeah.
All the guys that had a good Japan deal, Vince never messed with.
He didn't screw with them.
Well, you can't. As long as you got something else, can't nobody screw with you.
Why didn't you have any alternative?
I was just an old country boy from the hills of Virginia, and I didn't know. I didn't know them things then. I know now, but I didn't know it then.
All right, so let me ask you this. How big of a drop-off did you find from when you were making significant money when you were one half of the tag team champions to coming back as a singles undercard guy?
The money was totally different.
Yeah.
But the thing about it, I still trust what Vince said. I trust what he said. Wasn't true, but I trust him anyway,
All right, as 84 came to a close, like I was going to say, the build-up to the initial WrestleMania began. I think you were on the show, or I know you were with the company at the time, December of 84, when Dr. D. David Schultz unloaded on poor John Stossel from ABC's 2020
Yeah.
at MSG that led to
Yeah.
quite a lawsuit.
Yep, I was sitting right beside him. We got slapped.
What was the reaction? Because I've seen it on YouTube. It was before I was a little kid. He potatoed John Stossel.
Yeah.
Now, and he was told to kind of enforce the fact that wrestling wasn't a work.
He wasn't told personally.
No, he was not.
I mean,
Second hand, you mean?
Well, everybody in the dressing room told us to do that.
The boys.
Well, Vince came in and said, I wish somebody would deck that guy.
So he kind of hinted at it.
Yeah, and then Shooks thought it would get brownie points. And he went and did it.
In the end, it was a $425,000 night at MSG once the lawsuit was settled. John Stossel made out quite well. He claims he lost hearing in the year that...
He probably did, because
Yeah.
Shooks slapped him into the middle of next week.
Schultz was kind of a crazy guy, was he not?
Yeah, but what ended up happening, it cost Shook his career. He never stepped foot in the ring a day after.
He was gone very soon after that.
And the funny thing about it, I almost did it.
Really?
I came
Why? Tell me
because everybody, anytime a boss come in and make a suggestion, I wish somebody would take care of that guy. You
get the hint.
You get the hint. So you say, hey, if I do this, I'll be in good with Vince.
Yeah. It didn't work out for Dr. D. David Schultz. I don't know if the folks here in the audience have seen it, but it was...
Guy. Well, it was okay until the lawsuit came down the pipe. Then all of a sudden it wasn't okay then.
Do you think it was worth, the slap was worth $425,000?
I don't think to Shooks it wasn't, no.
Boy, and he, like you said, I can't remember of anywhere he went after his WWF
No, that
run.
was it. He was done.
Interesting character. I met him at one of the Fanfest reunions in New Jersey, I think back in 2003, and he actually flew a private plane in. He was kind of missing in action from the wrestling world for a long time.
Well, he started his own company as a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
He became a bounty hunter. He did real good with it, too,
I'll tell you this. You always hear secondhand stories. I thought he was a pretty nice guy.
I never had no problem with him.
You like Dr. D?
Oh, yeah, I like Dr. D.
We may never mention him again, but any interesting experiences with him?
No,
any stories?
No, but I liked him. I mean, we talked a little bit in the dressing room. I never had no problem with him. He never caused me any trouble, But he picked up on it, and he did it.
Wrong place, wrong time, I guess, right? Especially for John Stossel's ear, I guess.
Well, it probably would have been worse for all of us if he hadn't done it. Because then Vince probably got mad at all the other wrestlers for not doing it.
Well, I think
WWF saw you did it, you got in trouble. You didn't do it, you get in trouble.
he was planning a February sweeps piece where I think he wanted to shit on the business, and I think
Well, he used
Dr.
the
D
wrong,
maybe
he
made
used
him.
the wrong terminology. See,
Yeah.
people always say wrestling is fake, and that would piss off any wrestler because it's not fake. It's stage. It's a difference. Fake, you don't hit for real. Fake, you don't fall for real. Fake is acting. They
Stunt
punch you.
doubles.
Yeah,
You don't have a stunt
you do your
double
own
in
stunt.
wrestling.
Yeah. When you fall, you fall. When you get chopped, you get chopped. Your injuries, you got injuries, you know. And so, you know, like Jesse Ventura say, a gymnastic do a little flip on a mat, and they call him an athlete. He said he do a flip on a concrete floor. They call him fake.
Yeah.
Fake was not the term. The best term to describe wrestling was more like stage, and the staging was based primarily in my day on what the fans like. Like, for example, if I put you on a car in Madison Square Garden and you draw 20,000 people, and then I put that young man there on the car, he draw 10,000 people. Well, of course, if you're a wrestler, I'm going to put you over because more people would pay to see you than to pay him. Because the idea is to make money. That's why Bob Backlund, when they asked Bob Backlund to drop the title to Hogan, he said no.
Yeah, you were around for that.
He said no, he wasn't going to do it.
Why was Bob Backlund adamant that he wouldn't drop it to
Because Hogan
Hogan
couldn't beat him in real life.
Yeah.
And most champions would not let you beat him in the ring if you couldn't do it in real life, because if you got beaten up in a street fight, that hurt him too.
Right, yeah, yeah.
See? That's why I never let Hogan beat me, because he couldn't do it in real life. Yeah. So anybody that could not beat me in real life, I would not let him beat me in the ring. That was old school.
Well, Backlund had problems. Another guy that was suggested.
Carl Gotch was like that. A lot of guys were like that.
Another guy that they pushed Backlund to drop the strap to in the interim before Hogan was the mass superstar, Demolition Axe, Bill Eadie, yeah. But Backlund didn't want to drop it to Bill Eadie either.
No.
He was adamant about that. With the Sheik, he was a legitimate. He could.
No, they took the belt off him with the Sheik.
What do you mean?
Scolding through in the towel.
Well, it wasn't exactly.
And Backlund did not talk to him no more after that. Never again. He never said a word to Scolding out there. He was so pissed off on that.
Really?
He threw in the towel, standing there and watching. The Sheik got him hooked, and the Sheik looked at Scolding and said, "I'm going to break his arm."
Really? Mm-hmm. That I didn't know.
He got him hooked. Yeah, he got him hooked.
Well, Sheik was legit.
Because they was wrestling, trying to get in the wrestling when we call a shoot, called a hook.
Yeah.
Well, I get you hooked certain way. You know, it only take a little bit to break something at that point.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, he had him hooked.
Right.
So he looked up at Scolding to let Scolding know, I got him. What do you want me to do? See? And how the Sheik became one of Vince's best people, because when Hogan first got the belt, when he walked out on Vern Gagne, Vern Gagne called the Sheik up and said, when you wrestle Hogan again, I give you X number of $100
$100,000, yeah.
I give you $100,000 if you would break Hulk Hogan's legs for me. The Sheik thought about it and went and told Vince. Vince said, I will give you that for the rest of your life if you don't do it.
He was loyal to the company.
He was loyal to the company.
And I tell you this,
but he could have broke Hogan's leg that night.
Absolutely. Sheik could have destroyed Hogan. Sheik was the real deal.
He was the real deal. And that's why they had to get the Sheik to take the belt off of Backlund. But then they got afraid. They had a backup plan because they didn't think that the Sheik could really take him.
Really? Hogan?
Oh, no, Backlund.
Oh, Backlund, okay.
I mean, these guys, Backlund was...
Backlund was the real deal, yeah.
He fought a gorilla or something. And this guy bench pressed 500 pounds back in them days. He didn't look like it.
He didn't look like it, right.
But a 500-pound bench press.
Yeah.
So as soon as Scolding saw the opportunity, he threw in that towel. And you know, Backlund never talked to him again.
Wow.
Never talked to him
I tell you
again.
this, if the Sheik didn't run into all, my God, we don't even start with the Sheik and his drug problems, but if he didn't go that route, I can't imagine how much longer he would have been with the company and it had even a better run. But he was nuts by the end.
Well, yeah, because what happened, the Sheik broke his ankle, and he never got it fixed.
I've seen it.
So he did the drugs for the pain. For the pain. He had pain.
Have you ever seen his foot?
Yeah.
to give the fans.
And now he can't walk. But he never. See, in the older days, if you break something and you go to the hospital or the doctor, you was a sissy.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I tell you.
Take a pill, tape it up, get out there.
To give it to the fans an example, his foot is so mangled.
Yeah.
He walks on the bottom of his ankle.
I know.
He doesn't even have his foot just kind of shifts up. It's so sad. Because, the Sheik, we were in that, I don't even know if you know, we were hit by a drunk driver back in 2005. And you'd think the Sheik would have been the one responsible, but we were actually in the car that got hit. And his foot was just,
it's
purple. It's so purple. And
well,
I don't know why he's never got it fixed.
The Undertaker take his knee and do this.
Undertaker does that? Yeah.
His shoulder, he could take his shoulder and just take it loose just like that. Like taking off a coat.
It's a crazy world. But,
they tape him up, and then send him right back out there.
A lot of the Sheik's drug use was recreational, but a lot of it, he was in so much pain.
It was pain. Mostly for pain.
Yeah. And now he doesn't leave the house.
In the older school, if you injure and you don't show up and wrestle, you was a sissy. They say, suck it up. Triple H, I watched him. That's why he wore with the real high stockings and stuff.
Yeah.
If you saw him in the dressing room before he put a trunk on, he looked like the mummy.
Really?
They taped up everywhere.
Taped up everywhere?
Everything is all taped up. Yeah, all taped up. Yeah.
All right.
Undertaker too. That way wearing a long tight. He's taped up everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah, they tape them together. Give them a pill. Get out there.
It's not ballet.
And wrestling been like that for years. Football was like that for many, many years up until the lawsuits came out. But Lyle Izella, all them guys, they played with injuries up. Ernie Ladd, his knees gone. You see all them old guys, they all had bad knees and stuff. And most of these guys now, look at Hogan back for that big leg drop he did for all them years.
Oh, my, look at his hips.
He got a metal rod going up the center of his back, holding him up now. All those guys end up crippled when they taught it. This kid here, he's coming back now. Doctor gave him
Daniel Bryan.
Daniel Bryan. I mean, this kid just had a broken neck. Orn Anderson, a broken neck. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, he just had 2 shoulder operations.
I can see why so many in the business take offense to the word fake.
Fake.
There is nothing fake about it.
Not them injuries.
It's a working relationship to give the fans the best experience possible.
It beats your body up. Just like them cables right there. There's a metal cable going through that hold up bridges. And they wrap it in tape. Like they're gonna really, you don't feel that metal. But them cables are steel cables, and they wrap it in tape. So when you hit it, you get black and blue all here when you first start. Yeah, and the ring.
It's not as stiff as it used to be, but it's still not pleasant.
No, and the mat is only that thick because you make it any thicker than that, the wrestlers can't move.
Right.
It'd be like wrestling on a mattress. So the reason they're able to run across that ring and do what they do because you can't put a real thick mat on there because then you slow down the action. And you see guys take like Cactus Jack. I bet he had broke every bone in his body.
And a great guy.
Yeah. He could barely walk when you see him. Yeah.
He was just here with us in October, as a matter of fact. And as a matter of fact, you know what? He had a cane too.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, what a crazy industry we're in. We've gone through 1984. We're going to take it to the hard camera. Right now, why don't we take a brief timeout? When we come back, we're going to take a look at the build into WrestleMania I. How and what was going on with Tony Atlas is very interesting. Stand by, folks. We'll be right back. Wrestling fans around the corner, around the world, I'm Dan Marty.
And I'm Mr. USA WWE Hall of Famer Tony Atlas.
The road to WrestleMania has begun. Wrestling fans are looking to add to their man caves. You got to see what we have in the eBay store.
Check it out.
Arguably the greatest professional wrestler of all time. Get this limited edition collector's autograph print personally signed by 2-time WWE Hall of Famer Nature Boy Ric Flair, inscribed 16 times for each of his recognized World Championship reigns. One of only 50 made direct from our friends at WWE. Also signed by original artist Rob Schamberger. Help keep wrestling legends working. Get this awesome Ric Flair collectible for your wrestling collection now.
Wrestling fans, welcome back to Memories and Legends. Another big pay-per-view weekend. We're here with the Hall of Famer himself, Mr. USA, Tony Atlas, a man that's worked for 3 generations of McMahons. What a career you've had. Very happy always to have you here in the studio. I don't know, John Cena Sr., he's got New Orleans on his mind. Bourbon Street. I don't think he's ever coming back. He needs it, though. He's got to loosen up a little bit.
He
He's
gets
too stiff.
robbed.
That's right.
He better stay off of Bourbon Street today. Now, back in the 70s and 80s, Bourbon Street was a place to go. Now you get robbed.
Now you get robbed?
You get robbed down there now.
Well, you know what?
It's not the same.
If that happens, he's got a relative, I think, that's got a few bucks he can call to bail
He's
him
going to
out.
have to call his relatives because they sure be robbing them at Bourbon Street. Now, I wouldn't go on Bourbon Street now. Back in the 70s, it was great. We used to have these little oyster bars. You go there and get oyster. They had little jazz players and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, guys used to get drunk, lay right on the corner. Nobody messed with them. It was very, very safe.
Different world
It
now.
was a different world.
All right. Tony, we're into 1985 now. One thing about your career in WWF, and even I think you were still around for the WWF, right?
Yeah.
Yep. They always protected you at Madison Square Garden. Always protected you at MSG, which was, if you want to talk about before the days of pay-per-view events, MSG was the WrestleMania of each month. It was the pay-per-view, the big event and whatnot. To be at MSG, that was the place to be, and they always kept you strong at MSG. Was there a reason for that?
Not really.
No.
See, they based everything on ratings, putting asses in the seat. So when they have a person that they could, see, they put Hogan on, I don't know if you noticed that, he was always on the middle of the car, he was never last.
He'd go on right before intermission.
He was never last.
Very, very rarely.
They never been last. Now what it is, they always needed a guy that could keep the people there. And I was that guy that they would stay to watch me.
Funny enough.
No matter what, they would not leave that building to watch me. And at WrestleMania, you mentioned that earlier, they had this idea to let me wrestle King Kong Bundy.
Now we're talking the very first WrestleMania,
First
March 31st, 1985.
Very first WrestleMania, where earlier, about 6 months earlier, I wrestled Bundy on television before he became King Kong Bundy. He was wrestling under his regular name, Chris.
Payless, I think?
Right.
Yeah.
He had long hair.
Really?
And had a gimmick like the one-man game. He
Really?
was 400 pounds. Well.
And this was WWF?
There was WWF. Vince Sr. was running it. So me and him, we wrestled. Well, he moved around the ring like a 130-pound guy. I mean, very agile, and Vince got very impressed with him. Well, the thing was, all the wrestlers was peeking out the door. So SD told me later why they was peeking out the door, because my finished move, I did a press slam.
You pressed Bundy?
I pressed Bundy.
Get out of here.
I pressed Bundy.
Wow.
And the only one that believed that I would do it was SD. SD, everybody said he would never get him up. He never. Now, Vince Sr. never looked at the jobbers, as we call them. So when he said Tony, put Chris with Tony, he never saw Chris. And Skolin told him, said, did you see who you want Tony to press slam? And Vince Sr. said, no, who? He said, look at that guy. So Vince Sr. came through the door. He always had these quarters. He did like
He's always jingling the quarters.
Yeah, silver dollars.
$7.
He did like and when he got nervous,
really?
Or he started jiggling them things. So he looked in the ring. Now I was supposed to press slam this guy for my finish. And when Vince, the first time Vince looked at him, was really in the ring with me. So SD said, don't worry, boss man, get him up. Boss man, get him up. He get him up. I know boss man can do it. So the Captain Blue Alabama said, no, he's never going to lift that guy. The guy got to be 400 pounds. So I press slam Bundy. They never showed the tape.
Really? How
They
come?
sunned because of the way he moved. They sunned him away, and I didn't hear anything about him for about 6 months to a year later. He came back as Bundy. Now, at WrestleMania I, it's supposed to have been Tony Atlas versus King Kong Bundy.
What happened, Tony?
They gave me $2,000 not to show up.
Why?
Because I would have press slammed them.
Well, S.D. Jones got the spot. I wonder how much he got for the payoff for that one.
He probably got paid good, but I was the only wrestler that was paid not to show up. Most wrestlers get paid to show up. I was paid not to show up.
The month before...
Skolin saw me getting in the cab to go to Madison. Said, they don't want you on this one. They don't want you on this one. Vince want to save you for the next one. He's going to do another one. He want to save you for the next one. He said, here's $2,000. Had a big suitcase. Here's $2,000. You and your wife, y'all go out and enjoy yourself. I was on my way to the building. They stopped me going to the building. I was right at the door. Wouldn't let me in the door. WrestleMania 1.
Well, the month before, I found it interesting that I think might have been the first pinfall loss that you had at MSG in February of '85 to Paul Orndorff.
Yeah.
Orndorff was being groomed for the main event at WrestleMania the next month. What was the anticipation like for the boys? I mean, WrestleMania, it's a show at Madison Square Garden with a fancy name and some celebrities. Certainly not what it is now. A lot of the top guys in WWF were left off the first WrestleMania. Don Morocco came to mind. Ken Patera was pretty hot. He wasn't on it. Adonis and Murdoch was still around. Samoans, just a ton of guys that if it was a modern day type WrestleMania, they would have had a spot for. WrestleMania I was almost like a juiced up house show. You know, you had the top guys there with the big celebrities, but you had undercard guys, jobbers, you could say, on the show. It certainly wasn't a WrestleMania like you'd see now. Were the guys, did they expect it to be the big event that it turned into?
Oh, yeah, because
Yeah.
they did Shea Stadium before.
Oh, yeah, that was several years before.
So they knew.
There was magic in the air.
They knew, yeah.
Did you interact in the lead up to the event with any of the celebrities? I know there was a lot of heat between the Piper clique and Mr. T headed into the event. Did you interact with Mr. T at all?
Mr. T was a Tony Atlas fan.
Was he?
Yeah, he used to come to Chicago and watch me wrestle all the time. I got a picture with me and Mr. T in my phone right now. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah. He was a good guy. I like T. He's a brother, you know. Brother, when one brother see another brother doing good, he got to go to him. Like when I saw Mike Tyson, soon as Mike Tyson saw me, I didn't go to Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson come to me, Tony Atlas, how you doing, brother? When I met Muhammad Ali, same thing.
Really?
Yeah. It's a camaraderie between brothers, you know, that made it up the ladder. You know, when we see each other, we're going to congratulate each other, and it's a brother thing.
Do you think, was T difficult for the guys to work with?
No, they love T.
Piper?
T didn't pay Piper no man.
Really?
T don't worry about anybody he can knock out.
Well, was T the legit tough guy that he was portrayed upon on TV? There's a lot of people that say no, was he?
Yeah, because they didn't never met him.
T was a badass?
T was badass.
Could T have taken Piper and Orndorff if it turned into a shoot?
He could have worked both of them together.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Come on now. Who you
Well, Orndorff is a pretty tough guy.
Orndorff was not tough.
Orndorff wasn't tough?
Not like Mr. T, no.
Really?
No.
Now, let me ask you this. I don't know. What was Mr. T's background that made him such a tough guy?
But Mr. T was a bodyguard.
Was he an amateur wrestler?
No, he was a bodyguard.
A bodyguard?
He was a bodyguard. And he became famous when they had this tournament to be the toughest bodyguard in the world. And they put them all in the room, and T was throwing people through a wall. T was a legitimate, rugged SOB, brother. There was nothing soft about T.
Really?
We stopped him from hurting David Shook one night, and Chief J. Thropo said when he grabbed a hold of Mr. T, was like grabbing a piece of steel.
Really?
T was legitimate, man.
So what happened between T and Dr. D?
Nothing, because we held Mr. T back. And,
But I mean, what
and the cops arrested him. See, he wanted
Who
to
got
get in a
arrested?
fight. Which David Shook tried to pick a fight with Mr. T in order to get on the show.
He was another one that was off the show, right?
Yeah, they
Yep.
kept him on the show. So he was going to fight Mr. T to show how tough he was. And they had to grab Mr. T and hold T back. No, T was legitimate. He was the real deal, man. A lot of guys were the real deal that didn't win. You know, because you were tough, that don't mean they're going to make you champion.
Right.
You know, there were certain people that, like I say, when someone else dictate your coming, your going, your growing, your losses, your wins, it's up to Vince. It ain't up to the wrestlers. Now, with Vince Sr., it was up to you. Mm-hmm. You know, if you deserved that spot, Vince Sr. would put you in that spot. With Vince Jr., you can deserve that spot, but if Vince Jr. don't want you in that spot, you ain't going to be in that spot. He don't care how good you are, he don't care. He want who he want there.
Well, let me ask you this, Tony. At that time period, how hot was the business, at least for WWF? You're talking about mainstream talk shows. The night before WrestleMania I, Hogan and Mr. T were on the Saturday Night Live slot, when Saturday Night Live was the cat's meow, so to speak. The rock and wrestling connection with MTV, with Cyndi Lauper getting involved. WWF exploded at this point, exploded in popularity.
Well, because people was looking for something. Did that Ultimate Fighting, same thing.
It just took off, you mean?
Once a book been read, it's old. Wrestling always been in the dark corners. And then all of a sudden it got on cable television. Cable television done that. So people was able to see it. My first wrestling match that I saw in my whole life, I was in the ring doing it.
Really?
I never watched wrestling.
Yeah.
You know.
How big of an asset was MTV at that point, promoting WWF so much? They had I think it was called The War to Settle the Score at MSG the month before, as kind of the lead into WrestleMania I. And MTV was, I mean, you talk about hot with the demographic they were looking for. Once MTV hit, everybody watched MTV.
People watched MTV because it was the first radio show with pictures.
Yeah.
You could see the people singing. You could see James Brown performing. They were making a video of songs. Before, when you listen to music, all you hear was the music. You didn't see the people, unless you went to one of their concerts. You had to go to a concert to see James Brown or to see anybody. You want to see the Rolling Stones in the old days, you got to buy a ticket to go to a concert. But here at MTV, you could see the guys sing and perform by just flipping your TV on. You didn't have to jump in your car and go all the way to a concert. And a lot of people didn't watch wrestling. So when cable television came, it exposed it to a whole new group of people. Plus, they was able to dictate who would be the main guy and who would not be the main guy. See? And then they had people that check the ratings. And they say, oh, the people really like this guy, so let's put him in there. He may not be the toughest guy, he may not be the best wrestler, but for some reason, people like them. So the promoter is able to promote who they want according to how the ratings come in when they put the person on television. And that's what dictates who's going to be on top and who's going to be on bottom, is the ratings.
Well, I think MTV and WWF was the perfect combination.
But MTV is not what it used to be. They lost
Not now,
that.
no.
Well, because they don't show music anymore. The MTV
right.
got everything but music.
It's everything but music television.
What
now.
killed MTV was all the reality show. See, this is why they do reality show. A lot of people don't realize this. You don't have to be a member of the actor union.
Right.
So it's cheap labor.
Right.
That's what MTV is. It's cheap. Everybody want to be on TV.
Right.
So they don't have to pay these guys thousands of dollars to do this show. They give them a little bit of money and they be on the show. Like wrestling, you got guys wrestling for the WWE that make $500 a week.
Yeah.
And they employees of the WWE, $500 a week.
Wow.
And they got out of that $500, they got to pay their own expenses.
Yeah.
And they're on TV every week. There was a girl used to come out and do this thing.
Emma.
She wanted to get a case to put her laptop in. The case was $20. She didn't have $20. She's on TV every day and don't even have $20 to buy a case. So she stole it.
And she got fired for a short period of time because of it.
But she couldn't afford a $20 case. And she's on TV winning matches.
It's not as glamorous as you might think. Is that a good way to put it? Well, like I said, in '85, it was as hot could be.
Well, they found out that you could be glory happy, as we call it in the olden days. Like, they loved Tony Atlas, but he was glory happy. As long as I was going to the ring winning, I was a great guy. As soon as I started talking about my money, that's when the shit hit the fan.
You got that right.
If anybody would do anything for you, as long as they don't have to pay you.
Let me ask you this. In the build-up to WrestleMania I, did you interact with Cyndi Lauper at all?
A whole lot, yeah.
What did you think of her?
She was funny.
Funny girl?
Yeah.
Loved the wrestling business.
Yeah, she did.
And I think it was through Lou Albano that she kind of got involved in the mix.
Yeah.
Any interesting memories of her when she was around?
Well, with Wendy Richter, I remember Wendy Richter started getting as big as Hogan. And then
she got hot, yeah.
And they dethroned her.
Well, she didn't want to sign a contract, I believe.
No,
she didn't want to sign the contract.
That's what people say.
Well, tell us the story then.
What the story was.
Well, let's set up the scene now. It's late 1985.
They started doing these conventions.
Yeah.
And they were saying, send it to the convention. They were saying, Hogan to the convention. The lands were the same.
Really?
She was getting just as big. So they
look at who she was aligned with. I mean, she was pushed heavily on MTV in its infancy.
Woman, and they didn't want a woman.
Well, not only that,
big.
but I mean, she was hot.
I know, but they didn't want a woman to get that big. Kind of like we didn't want a woman to be president.
Yeah.
no matter how much experience you got. She's a woman.
Well, to set up that...
Even now, they have never pushed a woman as big as they push any male wrestler.
You think that'll happen with Ronda Rousey?
Never.
No?
No, she's a woman.
Well, again, it's late 1985. Wendy Richter's the women's champion. She has a match with Spider Lady. I don't remember who the original Spider Lady was,
look at what
but they put Moolah under the hood,
right?
And Moolah kind of hooked her.
They dethroned her.
And they kind of, that was
they dethroned her.
long before the Montreal Screwjob with Bret Hart. You had Spider Lady Fabulous Moolah kind of steal the title from Wendy Richter at Madison Square Garden. Now, from the way I was explained to me, Gorilla Monsoon tried to give her a contract before she was headed out to the ring. You say that's not true. What happened that night? Why did they do the screw job?
I just told you.
What, because she was too hot? And they wanted her out. Why would they want out?
The wrestlers never wanted women in the business.
But if she was such a hot commodity, why would they want her out? It's about making money.
You try to put logic to illogical situations. She had one problem. She was a woman. That was her problem. China had one problem. She was a woman.
No, China had a lot of problems. She had a lot of problems.
Nope,
I know for a fact that I was around them at that point.
She had no more. We could name all of her problems, but she had no more than the guys did.
Fair enough.
Okay,
fair enough.
But the problem was, we was in a profession that always looked at it as a male sport. That's why we don't have women wrestlers no more. We had divas.
Well, they've escaped that in 2018.
Right, they're divas now. People, like I was saying earlier, people ask me, was there a lot of racism in the business? No, not a lot of racism, but a lot of sexism. Yeah. Think about it. In all the years of wrestling, they had never pushed a woman that far in nothing. Never. In all the years, you get the action figures. You look around, you see male figure. Then when you buy an action figure, they have one woman. They don't invest in females the way they would invest in the guys.
Well, let me ask you this, Tony.
And a woman had to be 10 times better wrestler than a male to be on there. You imagine if King Kong Bundy was a woman, would they book him?
No.
See?
Well, let me ask you this, Tony. We were really escaping the 80s, but in 2018, say they took these women and pushed them as complete equals to the men. Do you think it would help the business, or do you think it would hurt it? Really?
Yeah.
I kind of disagree with you on that.
Well, I'll tell you why it will, but this is what people don't realize. Women outnumber men in America almost 2 to 1.
Yep.
35% of all major businesses in America is ran by females. Mm-hmm. We always had took credit, gave credit to men, and we always pushed women in that back corner. You are not to get into politics. You got a woman over here, 30 years of experience. You got a guy over here, 2 years of experience. The 2-year experience guy win. Got a woman over here, 30 years of experience. A guy over here, no experience. The guy with no experience win. In everything. They have never promoted women in this country in any kind of way, except for sexual. Only.
Fair enough.
Women had never got credit for being intelligent. If a woman is intelligent, they call it the B word. If she's outspoken intelligent, she's a B. As long as she jump when her husband tells her to jump and is sexy, she's okay. A man could go, my mother could say, a man could go and lay with this woman, lay with that woman, lay with this woman. Next morning he get up and stay at mister. A woman go do that, she everything but a child of God. We live in a very sexy society. Little boys go out and get in trouble. Boys will be boys. You let the daughter go do the same thing. Whole new ball game, you see? All your major issues in politics are women issues. Warfare, what they got to do for man? Man can't get warfare. Abortion, I'm not going to get pregnant. What I got to say about abortion?
All right, well, Tony,
Did you see that's wrestling?
Abortions.
Wrestling is have always been, well, look at football. The women are not allowing this, women are not allowed it. All your major sports are geared toward the women's, the last Olympics. The women, if it wasn't for the women, We would have won nothing the last Summer Olympics. Did they get any publicity?
Not much.
But that guy that swim that thing, Davis, whatever his name, the swimmer.
I know who you mean.
Oh, he's on every cornflake box and everything on God Green there. Woman go do the same thing.
All right,
we
Tony.
forget about her.
All right,
we forget about her so quick and make your head spin. No, you don't want to hear that because y'all.
It's not that I don't want to hear it.
It's
It's
bunch
just
of sexist pigs.
Who, me?
All y'all.
Memories and legends. It is, Tony. All right.
See, I was raised by a woman. She raised 9 kids. And
Your
when
mother
I saw
had
my
9
my
kids?
mother had 9
Yeah.
kids. She raised them all by herself on $35 a week. When I saw my daddy at 21, I said, why you leave her? He said, it was too hard raising all you kids.
Were they all with your dad and mom? They all 9 were from them?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But it was too hard for him.
Well, I could imagine it'd be hard for any human being that had
Not
9
my
kids.
mom.
Well,
She did it.
she
She
sounds
worked
like
two-
a great
She worked
woman.
2 jobs doing it. And that's why I'm so pro-woman.
She did a great job raising you.
Yeah, wrestling had never gave women the break they gave to a guy. Look at it now. What woman they pushing? Look at Ric Flair's daughter, hell of an athlete. She's not getting the push. You can take the lowest guy on a WWE card. He get more push than the top woman.
That's not true.
It is true.
No, it's not.
Who they pushing her over?
Well, I mean, the top women right now are certainly putting, I'd say, a strong mid-card spot, if not more. You could see a women involved in maybe the final match of WrestleMania this year if they go there.
No.
You don't think that'll be? Tony. Yeah. What are you on?
No, it's true. Brother,
What are you on?
I've been doing this for 45 years.
I understand that.
45 years, and I hadn't seen it in 45 years.
It's coming.
You can take the lowest guy on the WWE card, and he's more popular and get more push and more publicity, and they do more for him than they would do for Ric Flair's daughter.
I disagree with that. But you know what? Everyone's entitled to their opinion.
You
That's what
watch
the
it-
show's all about.
Is that right, guys? Y'all watch it. They don't push them women that big. No, they all know I'm telling the truth.
All right, Tony, all right. After
Everybody know I'm telling the truth. They watch it. They say it themselves. They don't push Charlotte Flair the way they did Hogan, put him in all these movies. They don't do that with these women.
All right,
They
well,
don't make no movies and nothing with none of these women. They don't do nothing with them.
let's do the Michael J. Fox Back
Look what
to the
they
Future.
do, Mickey
Come on.
Jane. Mickey Jane, one of the best female wrestlers around. What they do
She's
with her?
pretty good, yeah.
She'll
yeah.
be pretty good. They wrestle better than the guys. You got guys that could barely move out there, and they would get a better break than.
It
But
it is what it is.
But that's the sport.
That's the sport.
I know you
All
don't
right.
want to hear that, but that's the sport, and the women have to fight, have to have more going for them than the guy. That's why I say if King Kong Bundy was a female, they wouldn't book him.
Yeah.
If Mark Henry was a woman, they wouldn't book him. And
Well,
he's my best friend.
I mean, they have
but he
Nia
would
Jax.
not-
She's a big girl.
Yeah, but she also gorgeous,
Pretty face.
and she's
yeah,
the only
yeah.
one.
Well, if you had more than one, would she stand out?
No,
That's the point.
they would not push it. With Nia Jax, she's a big girl. They beating her now too.
Well, that's the problem. They don't have a heck of a giant roster of females.
Now she's losing every match
All right.
too. They
All
have
right,
some
Tony.
little skinny girl go out there beat that big woman. Just like to have Mark Henry lose to a midget.
Back to
Hogswaller beat the world's strongest man.
Back to 1985, Tony. After
Andre the Giant would not put over Little Louis.
he would, I hope not.
No, Little Louis would never beat Andre.
Were you disappointed when WrestleMania I was all said and done? Were you disappointed you weren't a part of it, even though you got the $2
Later.
grand later on?
Yeah, I had no idea what they was kicking me out of. Later I was.
I tell you, the rest of 1985, you didn't do a heck of a lot. You teamed with Ivan Putski on TV, George Wells, Lanny Poffo, a man that was, well, you know what Lanny Poffo was well known for.
They treat me like a woman.
Self-service. What's
They
that?
treat me like a woman.
Do you think Lanny
I got
Poffo,
treated.
did
I got
Lanny
treated-
Poffo treat
no,
himself
they
like
started
a
treating me
woman?
like a woman. Yeah, they started treating me like a woman.
Is that true about Lanny?
What is with Lanny?
Self-service.
I don't know nothing about that. How would I know?
Well, I thought that was something he used to do to entertain the boys in the locker
Not
room.
around me, he didn't.
He'd kind of form himself into a circle because he was very limber, and he'd self-service.
You're kidding me.
No, you've never heard of the self-service with Lanny?
No.
I tell you this, a funny story. We did an interview with Lanny, and I had to bring it up. That's what he's known for, is his self-service. And I said, I think it was Ole Anderson made some comments on it. Lanny Poffo exploded.
What do you mean self-service? He wiped his own butt or something? Or
No, he'd, orally service himself. He'd roll himself into a ball.
No, I didn't know. No,
You didn't know anything?
No,
I tell you.
Ain't nobody told me nothing there.
Lanny Poffo could have murdered someone, and he went on to talk about how Ole Anderson had bastard children. I mean, he was hot. I can't believe you've never heard of that.
No.
He was as known for that as Randy with the Miss Elizabeth
Well,
in
like
the
I said,
closets.
they had clicks.
Yeah.
So
well,
a lot
his
of-
clique was himself.
Yeah, a lot of guys like the Freebird, they had this clique going. And one time I was planning for a ride, so I ended up catching a ride with Micah and the other two guys there.
Buddy Roberts.
Buddy
And
Roberts.
Terry Gordy.
And they was all into like urinating on each other and all this and that stuff. The car smelled like urine and I didn't want to be involved with these guys no more.
You didn't want to be pissed
Well,
on.
see, back in my day, you got to realize there was very few people that lift weights.
Yeah.
Nobody went to the gym. So all the guys that I hung around with Kevin Sullivan, because Kevin liked going to the gym. Rocky Johnson liked going to the gym. S.D. Jones liked going to the gym. You had a lot of guys that was they believe going to the gym make you muscle bound, that you lose your flexibility, you lose your ability to weigh. So a lot of guys, they call us the health group. We had the protein, the big can of protein. We used to carry a blender in our bag. Me and Jesse Ventura. We got teased for that. The guys come and say, hey, you go out and get yourself a nice steak sandwich instead of carrying around all that protein. That was their belief. 6-pack of beer, steak, and potato for, our thing was bananas, strawberries, and a protein drink, And so everybody had their own clique. You had guys that was involved with cocaine, so they hung around with all the, all the other crackheads. You had guys that was, it was the right clique. So everybody had a certain group of people that they hung around with and they traveled with.
Yeah.
And if was not like Dallas Page, Kevin Nash, and Raymond Monroe, they all hung out together. Hogan used to hang out with Savage was a loner, Randy Savage. He didn't hang out with
Well, he had his wife.
Well, even before that, he was. Him and Lenny, they always been loners.
Lanny was literally a loner.
Yeah, they never really hung out. They was always by themselves. They traveled together, and but they had guys that was just loners, like Aaron Mike Sharp. He never traveled with anybody. He drove.
He liked to take his showers.
Yeah, but he never traveled with nobody either. He just liked being by himself. And it was like that with a whole lot of guys. Some guys like traveling by himself, like Mark Henry. He liked me being there, but what he didn't like was I had to travel with him. Mark Henry liked being by himself. He don't like traveling with people. And then you got Ted Long don't like traveling with people. Then you got other people like Shelter Benjamin, Cody, Rose. I see them all together. And that's how it was in the rest of it. You can't come up with no specific idea to describe all the wrestlers, because everybody had their own thing.
All right. Well,
And if you didn't fit in their clique, they didn't hang out with you. If you didn't party with them, they didn't hang out with you.
All right. Well, Tony, October 3rd, 1985. You talk about the boom of professional wrestling in the mid-1980s. Saturday Night Live, mainstay of NBC, WWF was put in the position where, at some points, as much as every 6 weeks, they had not a live, but a tape special, Saturday night's main event, taking over the Saturday Night Live slot. To me, those were the greatest wrestling specials I've ever seen. I loved Saturday night's main event. October in 1985, big match on the show. Big John Studd and King Kong Bundy take on Andre the Giant and Mr. USA Tony Atlas. 8.3 rating. 8.3 rating. Almost 10% of the human. I did research. Almost 10% of the people in the country were watching you and Andre take on Studd and Bundy. That's triple the rating of what a Raw does in prime time right now.
Yeah.
8.3 at a show that started at 11:35 at night and ran until 1 o'clock in the morning. Do you have any memories of that NBC special? None.
No.
None.
No. I don't. What year are you talking about here?
1985.
No, I don't remember that.
You don't remember that at all?
No.
Any memories of Studd and Bundy? I know you worked with Bundy
No.
as a jobber. What about John Studd?
But see, the fans know more about what the wrestlers do than the wrestlers. Here's the reason why. Monday, I'm in New York. Tuesday, I'm in California. Wednesday, I'm in Germany. Thursday, I'm in France. Friday, I'm in New York.
It's tough. It's a hell. It was a grind.
That's why when you talk about these wrestlers about all these different things, they don't remember.
It's hard to remember.
Because the way the wrestler worked, that match is over. Concentrate on the next one. Because the next day, you're in a different town. Sometimes a different country.
Flying.
A different country.
WWF was
like
all
right
there.
after WrestleMania, all the people from WrestleMania, they all going to Europe. They do a European tour. They ain't going to remember nothing. There's nobody that going to be on WrestleMania going to remember WrestleMania a week after it. Not one wrestler.
All
The
right.
fans will.
Yep.
Because that's the last day they saw. But to the wrestler, as soon as WrestleMania
It's on
is
to
over,
the next one.
It's on to the next one.
Explain to the fans, and this is always fascinating to me, and I think it really paints a picture of what a challenging business it is. What was the travel like for you in 1985?
You drove everywhere.
That was still a drive-in territory?
Yeah,
It hadn't
you drove.
gone.
Yeah, you drove. Yeah. But that was the best part.
How many
about it, because
days
you got to see the world. You got to see things. The guys now, they don't see nothing but the arena, hotel, and airport. They come to Boston and want to see Boston. They go to Chicago. They don't see Chicago. They see nothing. We drove. We saw the countryside. We met people. We knew the landscape or something. We knew what people like, what people dislike. We got to know people. With the driving, when you fly, they get up in the morning. They catch a 6 a.m. flight. They fly in. They check into a hotel. They go to a gym. They work out. They go back to the hotel. They have lunch. They go to the arena. They get up the next morning, catch another 6 a.m. flight. What did they see?
Nothing.
Nothing but
Nothing.
The rest of the day, they don't have the experience we have. We just drive around the countryside. We see this, we see that. We know where this restaurant was. We knew about this hotel. You know, we got to, you know, we got to see things, and they don't get to see nothing. They only see hotels, arenas, and airports.
I know when the Sheik was here one time, he said he did 93 straight days. He had his 2 suitcases from home, and for 93 straight days he was on the road. Do you remember any long stints, nonstop
When
on
I
the road
first
like
started,
that?
we got 10 days off a year, 10 days before Christmas.
10 days.
Before Christmas.
So
From
you were
the
working
15th
355 days?
Yeah,
Wow.
from Christmas to the 15th of December to Christmas. That's all the time we got. That was
Really?
it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a tough business.
Yeah.
All right, Tony, we're going to take a brief timeout. When we come back, we're going to look at 1986, the build to WrestleMania II. What an interesting match. But they had WWF versus the NFL Battle Royal. And who was featured in it? The man on his cell phone right now. Take a brief timeout. We'll be right back.
Wrestling fans around the corner, around the world, I'm Dan Marati.
And I'm John Cena Sr.
Johnny, the momentum here in Boston wrestling continues as we continue to build and build and build. The fans want to know, how do we help? We subscribe to the Patreon. But we see all the great merchandise on that set. Coronavirus may have killed the nightlife, especially for someone like Marty. But our acclaimed eBay store is open 24/7 around the world.
Wow. Check it out.
The Undisputed Era kicked ass and took no prisoners in WWE NXT. Now you can own this limited edition collector's autographed art print personally signed by Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish. Also signed by the original artist, Rob Schamberger, one of only 50 made direct from our friends at WWE. Help keep wrestling legends working. Get this awesome collectible for your collection now.
Wrestling fans, welcome back to Memories and Legends. We're here with Tony Atlas, who's been all over the place. We've had a lot of fun, interesting discussions. It's 1986 now, Tony. You've been on the road, again, kind of in an undercard spot. You had a big position on a Saturday night's main event special that did a huge rating on NBC, WrestleMania II. A very interesting event that took place in not one, not two, but 3 different arenas. Interesting concept.
Right.
You wound up in the WWF versus NFL
Right.
Battle Royal.
Right.
Interesting. I don't think nowadays you could see active NFL football players getting involved because of the big money, obviously, in a wrestling
I got
match
screwed
like
on that
that.
deal too. I was in the ring, 30 seconds?
You weren't in the Battle Royal long?
30 seconds. I was the first one they threw out.
Get out of town.
Watch it. That's why you keep bringing about all this sad shit.
What's that now?
You keep reminding me of all this sad stuff. That's what Vince was putting up my yang without giving me a kiss.
He did what?
You know what I mean. He was screwing me, and you keep reminding me of being screwed.
Well, I want the memories.
Every year, what memory? I'm trying to forget it.
You want to forget it?
I've tried my best, and you keep bringing up all them years. Once Vince Jr. took over, everything you talk about with Vince Jr., all the thing they bring back to me is I got screwed.
Those are your WrestleMania memories.
I want to forget all of it. Not talk about it. Forget about all that, how Vince screwed me.
So this is almost like a therapy session.
What did Vince Jr. ever do for me but screw me around? What?
We brought you back in 2008.
To screw me.
You got screwed in 2008?
Of course I did. Have Mark Henry to humiliate me every day and have me out there laughing like a goofball on the Abraham Watson show, laughing at myself. He screwed me. He had me jumping around like an African monkey the first time he ever booked me. He screwed me every freaking chance he got. The only one that ever did anything for me was Vince Sr. He's screwing me now.
How's he screwing you now?
Well, first of all, he don't give me nothing. He give me 1% of a penny on my royalty. He's showing me all over television. I get nothing from it. He put me on Legend House, and then he invite all the people from Legend House to WrestleMania but me and Hillbilly Jim.
Really?
You know that.
I know that. I didn't know.
Huh. Shit, he tried to make me into an asshole on Legend House. You saw it.
What was the Legends House experience? Was it good for you?
I was going to be the jerk.
Really?
He hired me to be the jerk. Vince never did nothing for me. Screwed me every chance he got.
All right. Well, Tony, I tell you.
That's what I like talking about the 80s.
I didn't expect 1986 to go that way.
Well, that's how it was. I mean, I was out there losing matches to guys that couldn't carry my jock strap. All right. Well, think about what Vince did. You can't name one thing Vince did for me since 1985. Not one. Not one.
All right. Well, wrestling fans.
He did the same thing to the Rock's father, Rocky Johnson. He blackballed the guy, never did nothing for Rocky.
Well, Rocky, didn't he kind of make his own bed in that situation or not?
Nope. A lot of people did worse. What did Rocky do wrong?
Well, you yourself have said he was kind of difficult.
Yes, but there was a whole lot of other guys. There was guys beating up women, fighting on planes, getting busted with drugs on airplanes. They still kept a job.
All right. Well, we heard it from the horse's mouth, the Hall of Famer, Mr. USA,
Tony
Tony
Atlas.
Atlas,
WWE stuff.
ripping the microphone off. Well, I don't think you'll be watching WrestleMania tonight.
I care less about WrestleMania. The hell they gonna do for me?
Well, we're going to have fun in New Orleans, hopefully, at
Yes, we
WrestleCon.
will.
Hopefully, we'll get together
I
and
was
have a
talking
nice
about the
meal.
wrestling fan and the independent, but Vince Jr. ain't never did nothing but Tony Atlas try to hurt Tony Atlas.
Well, I'm sorry that you
He
feel that way.
blackballed me for 14 freaking years. Kicked me out at the prime of my career, and then when he did bring me back, he bring me back to make an idiot out of it. He stripped all that stuff with me and Mark Henry, had Mark Henry come out there and insult me. You know Mark Henry don't think about me in that way.
No,
He
definitely
had Mark
not.
Henry embarrass me every time he got a chance. And then what my job up for Vince? Hey, Tony, do the laugh. Go screw yourself.
All right. Well,
I've been holding all this in. I'm trying not to get angry about it. So what I do, everything from 1985 all the way up to today, I want to forget.
all right. Well,
It was the shits for me.
wrestling fans.
My
this is-
wife and I are struggling now because that piece of garbage took and blackballed me and Rocky Johnson and kicked a whole lot of black wrestlers to the curb. Racist ass bastard.
Well,
Where's my bag?
wrestling fans, until we speak again, you and yours be well. Tony, are you all right, buddy? How much coffee did you have today?
My legs hurt. You talk about how great Vince is.
I didn't say he was great. All right, well.
The World Wrestling Federation was live, returning to the Pittsburgh Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the home of Maria Davis after a 3-year absence, Friday, May the 4th, 1990. In the opening contest, Hillbilly Jim beat Bob Bradley. Model Rick Martel with the win over Hercules. WWF Tag Team Champions Demolition battled the Hart Foundation to a double disqualification. Haku defeated the Red Rooster. Brutus Beefcake victorious over the Genius. Paul Roma beat Playboy Buddy Rose. And in the main event, Earthquake with the win over Hacksaw Jim Duggan. If you were in Pittsburgh live, share your memories in the comment section below. Use the links in the description box to keep Wrestling Legends working in our eBay store and on our world-renowned Patreon streaming service so we can bring you more interactive superstar shoot interviews to relive the good old days of professional wrestling. Check it out. Boston wrestling sports in the MWF explodes into a new year with professional wrestling content galore and need you to join our family. Every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. after our Monday Night Raw review, it's Wrestling Insiders at your house with WWE Hall of Famer Mr. USA Tony Atlas. Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. after NXT and AEW, join rotating legends on Wrestling Insiders Special Edition. Every Thursday night at 10 p.m. after our NXT and Dynamite review, it's Marty Jannetty's No Holds Barred Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll Journey on Wrestling Insiders Party with Marty. Friday night after SmackDown, don't miss John Cena Sr.'s Wrestling Insiders Fabulous Fridays. Plus, look for classic clips, history videos, bonus live episodes, pay-per-view watch-alongs, and more. For less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks, get early ad-free access to our Wrestling Insider talk shows, our acclaimed studio shoot interview DVD library, and help keep Wrestling Legends working during the worst of times. Join our growing family at patreon.com/Boston Wrestling. Expect the unexpected in 2021.